What if a single order from a puffed-up leader, blinded by his own myths, wiped out an entire air force and gifted the skies to the enemy? Picture this: August 17, 1943, 10:15 a.m. A foggy platform at Rinton Heath in East Prussia. General Adolf Galland, the razor-sharp fighter boss with ice in his veins and 100 for kills already etched into history, watches Reichsmarschall Hermann Göring climb aboard his gilded train. They'd just wrapped a tense conference on Luftwaffe tactics. Galland clutches fresh reports American P-38 Lightnings, tricked out with external drop tanks, slicing 150 miles deep into the Reich, shredding German fighters over targets that were supposed to be untouchable. Squadron leaders from Schweinfurt to Regensburg radio the same nightmare. These aren't crippled planes limping east from earlier scraps. They're fully loaded, guns blazing, escorts that refuse to peel off when fuel should force them home. Galland corners Göring on the platform, lays out the specs, the sightings, the drop tank game changer. Doctrine shattered, Göring's face purples. Impossible, he roars, gliders from altitude, nothing more. He slams down an official order: American fighters have not crossed central Germany. End of discussion. Galland flashes a smile witnesses never forgot. Orders are orders, sir. The train chugs away. In that moment, the Luftwaffe's death warrant was signed. But the blood was already spilling. That same afternoon, the Regensburg-Schweinfurt raid turns into a slaughterhouse. 60 American bombers tumble from the sky, but 25 to 27 Luftwaffe fighters vanish in flames, most ripped apart by the very P-38 Göring erased with a wave of his hand. Pilots radio frantic confirmations, twin-boom Lightnings diving from 25,000 feet, guns sparkling, fuel tanks jettison mid-fight for full maneuverability. 3 weeks later, September 6th, Stuttgart. Major Egon Meyer 57 bomber kills, master of the head on pass leads JG2 into a textbook frontal assault on B-17s, his Messerschmitts rake the lead boxes, engines smoking. Then the trap springs, P-38s, lurking high and silent, plummet like hawks. Meyer's formation explodes apart. 3 fighters spin in on the first pass. Meyer himself barrels into a near-vertical dive, outrunning a heavier Lightning, but 5 of his men are gone, 3 dead, to parachuting into captivity. 0 bombers confirmed destroyed. By October 14th, Black Thursday, the second Schweinfurt bloodbath, another 60 American heavies lost, yet the Luftwaffe trades 38 fighters and 42 irreplaceable pilots. The old 3-to-1 kill ratio in Germany's favor collapses toward parity. Galland pores over the logs. June, 87 fighters lost. July, 106. August, 174. -1, 193. October, 224. Veteran pilots drop from 60% of the force to 40%. He fires off a November report without drastic action. Total collapse in 6 months. The reply: crickets. And then a new shadow streaks across the horizon. December 1st, 1943. The North American P-51 Mustangs sleek, Merlin-powered, a high-altitude demon makes its combat debut. Early Allison engine versions had flopped at altitude, but swap in the Rolls-Royce Merlin with its 2-stage supercharger. And you get a fighter that climbs to 30,000 feet with power to spare, outruns Bf-109s and FW-190s above 20,000 feet, turns tighter in a dogfight, and crucially flies 800 miles on drop tanks. Berlin sits just 600 miles from English bases. Every factory, rail yard, and oil plant in the Reich is now in range. December 13th, Kiel, 55 P-51BS escort, B-17S to 140 miles inside Germany, bag 6 interceptors, lose none. Galland storms Berlin with performance charts, pilot testimonies, urgent pleas, prioritize me to 162 jets, ramp production. Stretch training, Göring shrugs German pilots are superior, tactics unbeatable. January 1944, Mustangs prowl Frankfurt, Leipzig, Augsburg, losses snowball. Then, February 20th hits, and the sky turns into an American shooting gallery. Operation Argument Big Week unleashes 6 days of unrelenting fury. Over 3,500 heavy bombers, shielded by P-38s, P-47s, and hundreds of P-51s, pound aircraft factories from Regensburg to Poznan. The Luftwaffe hurls every squadron into the meat grinder, Aces pull triple sorties. Teenagers with 150 flight hours are shoved into cockpits. The toll is apocalyptic. 262 fighters destroyed, 180 damaged beyond repair, 100 pilots killed, 90 wounded, 43 missing. Egan Meyer, now at 100 to kills, dies March 2nd over France to P-47s. Kurt Cuban, 110 kills. Falls February 22nd near Brunswick. These aren't rookies, these are the architects of every successful tactic, the instructors who turned boys into killers. Replacing them, impossible. A competent fighter pilot needs 6 months minimum. Excellence demands 2 years. Germany fields pilots with 3 months, 200 hours total. Americans, 400 to 500 hours before their first mission. Survival rate for new German pilots, 5 sorties. Galland begs for fuel reallocations. Veteran instructors, shortened combat tour. Every plea denied. Frontline needs trump everything. The training system, built for quick blitzkrieg wins, crumbles under fuel rationing and a light airfield strafing. And the Americans smell blood. Early 1944. General James Doolittle takes 8th Air Force Command and rewrites the rules. No more leash on escorts. Fighters roam free, hunting Luftwaffe planes from takeoff to landing. P-51 group sweep ahead, bounce Germans forming up, strafe bases, chase cripples home. No phase of flight is safe. March 4th, Berlin falls under daylight bombs for the first time. 600 heavies, 170 for Mustangs, flying the full 1,100-mile round trip. 16 German fighters down, for Mustangs lost. Grings boast they'll never bomb the Reich allies in ruins. April 27th, Galland's desperate report bypasses Gring, 500 planes and 400 pilots gone in 10 raids. 1,000 pilots lost January-April. Enemies outnumber 8 to 1. Training collapsed. He'd trade 5 Bf-109s for 1 Me-162. Hitler, obsessed with bombers, delayed the jet's fighter role for months. By the time he relents, the hemorrhage is unstoppable. Spring 1944. 2,262 pilots killed, wounded, or missing. January-May. March alone breaks the fighter force. JG-11 loses 28 pilots in 3 weeks, JG-3 loses 31, and then the ultimate humiliation lands on the beaches. June 6th, D-Day. The Allies expect a Luftwaffe storm over Normandy. Luftflotte 3 fields 481 planes on June 5th. They managed 319 sorties against 14,670 for Allied. Many ground crew never spot a German plane. Oberst Joseph Priller, 101 kills, and his wingman streak in at wave top height to FW-190s, the entire air response to history's largest invasion. They rake Sword Beach, vanish into the haze. Priller calls it suicidal, but necessary. By July, monthly losses top 400 fighters. August nears 500. Factories churn 1,500 planes a month, but fuel evaporates, spares vanish, pilots crash on training hops. Galland logs 50 pilots lost daily. Schools graduate 30 a week. Squadron leaders compare new arrivals to condemned men panicked in formation, dead in days. Galland flies rogue missions, dives through 50 Mustangs in seconds to prove the impossible. November 2nd, 500 Germans versus 975 bombers and 800 escorts. 98 fighters down, 78 pilots gone. Hitler strips defenses for the Ardennes pipe dream. But one last ace up the sleeve glints in the wreckage. January 1945. Top aces confront Gring in the fighter pilots' revolt. Galland takes the fall relief. January 13th. House arrest, treason whispers. Hitler spares him for propaganda. Form JV-44. Elite Me-162 unit. Galland assembles legend. Steinhoff 176 kills. Barkhorn 301. Hrabeck 120. Jets scream at 540 miles per hour for 30mm cannons vaporizing bombers. Galland bags a B-26 March 31st, adds 6 more heavy bombers in weeks. JV-44 claims 45 Allied planes March-April, but Germany collapses. Soviets in Berlin streets, Allies across the Rhine, fuel plants ash. April 26th, final mission. Galland's jet shredded by Lieutenant James Finnegan's P-47. Shrapnel peppers his knee. He crash lands, command lost, May 8th, surrender. Post-war, Galland advises Argentina, pens the first and the last, meets Finnegan in 1979 to warriors sharing coffee over the dogfight that ended an era. And the whispers still echo. Historians pinpoint August 1943 as the irreversible fracture. Reports murmur Göring's morphine haze clouded judgment unverified, but memoirs hint. Online forums speculate. Earlier meet 160 to focus might stretch the war 6 months, bleed allies dry. Galland insisted one ignored warning doom thousands. Leadership that punishes truth-tellers doesn't just lose wars, it erases legacies. What denied fact in your world could unravel everything tomorrow?